Yes, Spirit and Divine, come to us today. Because beauty and love live in us. And so open our hearts today, allow us to see. Allow us to take this minute to bless this time together. Those who have shown up in service at the last moment. Those who come every Sunday and bless us in the tech business back there, up here in the choir, next door with our children. And of course, today we do a special blessing upon our speaker. Because holy, holy, holy. We are whole. So please help me anchor this by saying, and so it is. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're sinking. Oh, wait, you guys are there, so okay, we're even. Just take a minute, look around, say hi to each other. It's been a morning already. Yay, woo, woo. Awesome. So we are an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers. So we begin that ceremony that celebrates this oneness of life, which acknowledges that all people in all faiths come from the one universal presence, which we call Spirit. And our candlelighter this morning is Michelle. This will probably be the last time she lets me hug her as she walks in the door. So let us begin. The Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as its highest calling. New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And of course, our last candle is the healing candle of love. And we invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and of light. And now that our flames of faith are fully lighted, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. Thank you, Michelle. Our sacred quote today arrived in my email box last night. I was very excited when I saw it. So this is actually something created by Kaleem. It's paraphrases of Jesus, the preamble to the United States Constitution, Ernest Holmes, and Martin Luther King. You ready? Affirmation of unity, justice, and the beloved community. The glory which you have given me, I have also given to them, so that they may be one, just as we are one. We, the people, form a more perfect union to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common good. We affirm the ultimate goal of life is a complete emancipation from all discord. And we embrace the creation of the beloved community, where all live together in harmony, honoring the dignity and worth of all. This truth is now revealed, unfolding in unity, peace, love, and prosperity. And so it is. That was beautiful. Thank you, guys. Heard them practicing this morning. It was awesome. Well, welcome. My name is Linda Steiner, and I am one of many licensed practitioners here at the center. And we like to point out who the practitioners are because the foundation that we are formed on is a foundation of prayer. And so we have several different ways that you can have prayer right after this. First, I'm going to ask the practitioners to please stand in the room. I've got Karen, and I've got Dad, Robert, and Bob. I got Judy and Cynthia George in the back. So I notice you're all looking around, which means that you all know who you can tap on the shoulder to pray with you after this, right? Yes, it's a big week, so feel free to get prayed up before you leave today. The second way you can step into prayer is that in front of you in the seat pocket, there should be a little form, and it's a prayer request. And you can write down your prayer request and then put it in the box to the left as you leave. Those will be sent out, and we'll get to pray for you all week long. Yes. And then, of course, the last way of prayer is that it's 11 o'clock at night. You know, things aren't going so well. You can't sleep. The dog won't come in, whatever. Go to our website, and you can instantly put a prayer in. And as soon as you type it out, that prayer has already been heard by Spirit. So there's no excuse. Please, please, please keep prayer front of mind this week. And use it. Use it for each other. Use it for yourself. Use it for the pets. Use it for California. Use it for whatever makes your heart sing. So, announcements. I also get the privilege of getting to welcome anybody who's new. And if you would like to raise your hand, you don't have to. We have a gift for you. And if you don't want to raise your hand, there we go, Judy. You can see Judy afterwards, and she will be happy to hand you that gift. But welcome, welcome, welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. We need your magazines, your old magazines. We're going to do a vision board. So there is a box and some bags back there that already have magazines in them. But please, please, please bring, what a great way to start the year. Get rid of all your old magazines. So it's a twofer there. So we'll be collecting those until February 8th, which is when Cynthia George and I think Cindy Hensley are going to be doing a visioning board event here. Since it's 1 to 4 p.m., I'm assuming that's a Saturday. Okay, so 1 to 4 Saturday, February 8th. We are asking, please sign up so we know how many people are going to be arriving. And my last, first I want to thank Sarah. Miss Erin is sick. and she's been sick all week. And so I think it was probably a last-minute phone call to you yesterday. And Sarah just said, yes, I'm here, and shows up. So thank you. And then I will conclude with the introduction of our speaker today. So I'm going to let you all in on a secret. I know that when we pray, most of us will close our eyes or lower our head, but I invite you today to watch Kaleem when he prays. Oh, wait, CPR. Who knows CPR? Watch his facial expressions, because this man is so connected into spirit that when he starts that prayer and he is setting the tone and he is invoking God, his face changes. I will not say what you just said did, but because prayer, it's all about what's inside. It's about how you feel it. It's about how you say it. Watch Kaleem.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And thank you, choir, for the beautiful music. Did you know that long ago, there was a time period when there was no light? Did you know that? Yeah. Right. And there was no warmth, no sunlight. The earth was covered with darkness. But there were people who stumbled in darkness. They were unable to see each other. They're unable to know how to know each other or how to help each other. They longed for this ideal called light. They longed for this idea called the warmth of the sun and togetherness, because the light had been stolen by a great chief. And he kept it locked up in a little box inside the longhouse. But then there was the raven. Raven is the great trickster, the bringer of gifts. The raven saw the people were suffering. He knew that without the light, they could not see their way forward. So the raven decided to bring to them what they needed most, the gift of illumination, wisdom, and shared vision. So disguising themselves as a little child, the raven tricked the chief into giving him the box to play with. And this box, of course, contained that which they all desired. But as soon as the raven took hold of the box, he flew into the sky, lifting the light high above the world. And with a single breath, he flung the light into the sky, where it became the sun, casting the golden glow all over the land. He scattered the pieces of the light, creating the moon and the stars. So even in the darkness, there could be guidance. Now the people could see each other. Now they were no longer divided by isolation. They could now work together to build their community. They could move forward. They could recognize their shared humanity. The light no longer belonged to one person, the one chief. It belonged to everyone. So as the people warmed themselves underneath the sun, they understood the raven had not only given them sight, but he had given the power to dream, to create, to unite. And from that day forward, they built their lives in harmony, justice, and peace. Well, welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. And thank you for joining us this momentous day. I feel it's a momentous day, because this is a day before a great convergence is happening tomorrow. Who's aware of that great convergence? Okay. We are celebrating, we're having the ceremony of the inauguration of the president, as well as it happens to be the celebration of the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. So this is really a convergence of the symbol of power and a dream. So we're going to talk about today the power and the dream, and what a coincidence it is. But as you know, as oftentimes when I give these talks, I take a deep dive into history. It has nothing to do with my talk sometimes, okay? But I'm going to share it with you anyway. Did you know how long it took after the Declaration of Independence in 1776? Help me, this is a classroom interaction, okay? What year was it? 1776. Do you realize how long it took to form today's present Constitution? How many years it took?
Oh, it was no.
Just give me a guess.
It was like the 1970s before all men are created equal, that part.
Well, no, that was 1776, Declaration of Independence.
I know, but before it was lived, is that the question? Can you ask?
How long did it take to create the Constitution?
Oh,
Okay. Right. About 13 years. From 1776 to 1789. They labored under a different agreement, but then they labored because they felt it was imperfect. So they wanted to create a more perfect union. So they knitted it together. Now, as I had the opportunity, Linda was giving me a little personal jabbing about me coming in about 5 minutes ago, right? I felt it, okay? But she didn't know I had a double header today, okay? I had the opportunity to speak at the Adams Center, and I ran over here. And one of the things I shared with the Adams Center, of course, was some of the talk that I'm giving today. But what I found interesting was that how a couple of years ago when I was giving a talk about the glory of, life and how things are getting better and et cetera, someone from the audience came up to me afterwards and said, Kaleem, your talk was very inspirational, and they gave me a lot of kudos, but you did not talk about all the crap that was going on during that time period also, okay? So I want to acknowledge, we're talking about an ideal today, and I also want to acknowledge that while these founding fathers, without the mamas at the table, okay, all right, and there was they're having all this highfalutin discussion about freedom, there were also a lot of darkness going on, devastation, wiping away of nations, and enslavement, and et cetera. So we want to acknowledge that. And there was a light going on also. So I want to talk about how it took from 1776 to 1981, yeah, probably so, but even 1781 before we ended with the Constitution. And then it took 4 months, then they gathered together in 1787, it took them 4 months to come to an agreement on it. And then in 1787 to 1788, over 9 months before they could ratify it, which means they had to, now the individual states had to vote to agree. And of the 13 states, they had to have a minimum of 9 to make an agreement, so it took a while. And it wasn't fully implemented until 1789. Thus, the development of this Constitution took these long years of getting together. And we realized that it took some time for them to come to this agreement, and the foundation we stand on today. And then, of course, they wrote this beautiful document, this beautiful document called the preamble to the Constitution. And I want you to take a moment to kind of breathe this in. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Isn't that a beautiful document and beautiful words? It's a beautiful dream that takes time to evolve into practical reality. And we stand here today more free, more justice, and somewhat more common defense, okay? But we also want to recognize it's a dream in process. And for every dream, it takes time to bring it from the ideal to the real. And as the very indication itself, a more perfect union, which means they recognized in the very beginning it was not perfect. And we're now dedicating ourselves to make it more perfect. So it really isn't a destination, it's a process. It's a process. And then that's when I also got inspired when I was preparing this to create that little affirmation. Because as you know, as we're celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday as well, then I was recalled that he had a dream also. You know, he spoke it from the steps of Lincoln Monument about this wonderful dream. And part of the dream, of course, was that he spoke of a beloved community. And the beloved community was to secure the blessings and the dignity of everyone. And I realized that was very common to the preamble of the Constitution of the United States of America. A more perfect union, a beloved community. But look how long it took for them to build this Constitution that we now celebrate today, and the work it took to do so. So then, of course, as you know, doing my typical thing, I take these deep dives, I prepare my talks. So I realized that, of course, we're here at the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. And why do I often repeat that? So that in case you have a visitor here, okay, or in case someone's watching it on video some time from now, they'll know why we would take a particular approach to these things that are going into the world. Because we have dedicated ourselves with a common vision for spiritual living, to look for the light, to be the raven in the community of humanity. This is what we do. We recognize there is darkness. We recognize that we are evolving, and we recognize there is light, oftentimes locked in a box. But we can find it, and we can open it, and we can spread it. And this is what we do here at the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. We're dedicated to spreading the light. So I took a look at dive in history, and I'm saying, what would be a good example of other stories in history in which there was this raven, this light bringer? Well, of course, one of the most things I'm most familiar with, since I grew up in the Christian tradition, was the story of Christianity. And of course, in order to study Christianity, you have to be familiar with the story of the Old Testament, of the Hebrew, okay, the Jewish history. And then, of course, just like we have the story of the raven about the light, right? Of course, we know that all cultures on planet Earth have some story like this, with this common mind, right? This common destiny. And then, therefore, I remember there was a story called the creation story, and called In the Beginning, God. And in this creation story, in Genesis, there's actually two stories. I'm going to focus on one of those stories today, okay? There's actually two stories of creation. In the one story of creation, it took 7 days for the total creation, actually 6 days for the total creation to happen. They talked about, creating the light, dividing the light from the darkness, creating the waters and the earth and the sky, and then the plants and the animals, and etc. Then on the sixth day, this one God that started everything said, let us, isn't that interesting? Oh, the one person talking about who are they talking to, right? Let us make humanity, paraphrase, okay, in our image and likeness. And then the story goes on a little later on, and how in order to form the body, it gathered the elements of the earth, from the dust of the earth, and it formed a body, but it was not human, it was not a human yet. Until this God, or the gods, breathed into it the breath of life. A breath of life. Then it became a living soul. Do you realize that was the first inauguration? An inauguration in which the people, and today the people come together through democracy and through election process, and they decide to transfer power to a particular person, or in our form of government, also Congress and et cetera, to represent the people, but it came from the general to the particular person to execute the good of all. And in this beautiful creation story, this one infinite universal something that we call by many names chose to come to focus on a particular event, even though it had made other creations during this 6-day process. And when it made the other creation, it said, and it is good. And then when it breathed into this clay, the breath of life, and it became a human soul, a living soul, and then this God said, it is very good. You are very good. You are part of the inauguration of life itself. And it's just as the people come together to ordain a particular person to represent us, the gods, us, or the God, came together and particularly breathed into you and I and created an image and likeness to represent itself in the image of you and I. We've got the power from the infinite itself. Now the question is, what do we do with this power? Well, first of all, we have to recognize that part of human growth and development and part of life processes, and remember, we're talking about metaphysics here with the spirit for spiritual living. So we take the physical, because someone told me years ago, probably decades ago now, that if you go back, why do we say we're new thought, ancient wisdom? Because they say if you go back in ancient time periods, before we had all this spaghetti bowl of different systems on top of systems on top of systems, you go back to the primary cultures of human living, you can probably see more clearly how life works and how things evolve naturally. But we have all these fancy philosophies and all science and everything, we piled on top, we don't know where everything started. But look at how it basically started. It basically started, according to the creation story, now we know this is kind of scientific, first of all, just minerals. But an idea created the minerals. A thought created the minerals. Isn't that true in human consciousness? That some of us are simply minerals? We don't do anything. Wherever we're placed, we're just there. If it gets hot, we'll get hot. If it gets cold, we get cold. But we're just here. I'll move if you move me. Okay? And then all of a sudden we find life got a little more sophisticated. Then we have what we call vegetation life, right? The vegetation life doesn't necessarily have the same, has a little more sensitivity, especially to light and temperature. Now when the sun comes up, it'll go, oh, it'll rise up, it'll follow the sun. My plants follow the sun across my windowsill, right? In the summer months, right? So we have the sensitivity to follow light. So we have a sense of something, and isn't that true, some of us as human beings? We seem to have a little more life than mineral life. We're not just a slug sitting there. And we seem to be stimulated by something that's going on in the environment, but we really don't move, don't do anything. We just follow. We just follow whatever's happening in the environment. And then we get to the animal life stage. Animal life stage, now I'm made of minerals. I'm definitely affected by the sunlight and the heat and the warmth. But now I can move about. I can scatter around the earth, co-create in different ways than the plant life. It seems like the mineral life doesn't co-create at all, it seems like. Okay. And I have an instinct. I can learn new things. I can adapt. But my major thing is to eat, sleep, co-create, and protect, and attack when necessary, which I find it often necessary. Isn't that part of human living also? We move about the earth. We have a sense of adapting. We can adapt to environments. But our main thing, all we want, is to get up, to eat, sleep, co-create, procreate, okay, all right, and attack the others because out of fear. And then there's a thing called humans. Has all the characteristics of all the previous creation that was good. But now the difference is that we have mobility, we're affected by the environment, we can adapt, but now we can also not just procreate, we now can co-create through imagination and ideals. And that's why, as someone says, no, we're not just indigenous, we're also endogenous, which means we can create an environment to adapt to us because we're co-creators. We're not enslaved to our circumstances. Therefore, I looked at this and I saw how humanity, the story of the Hebrew, the story of Christianity, how they developed over time. I also saw how this thing that was called very good went through different type of changes because it forgot who it was and who its creator was, and it stumbled around. And it went into slavery and out of slavery, and it went into the so-called promised land that we're still fighting over today, okay? And found the promised land was as savage as it is today. After I got past the Sunday school story of how they went into the promised land, killed every man, woman, child, every living thing to get into the promised land, that animal nature, because we're fearful. And then came an avatar, as always happens. The raven shows up. The raven could be called Moses. The raven could be called Jesus. And Jesus said, let's go to a higher level of living in consciousness. And really having this God that we fear and we have to pray to and appease, let's have a God that is an intimate family member. This God that's so intimate and so loving, I'm going to call it Papa. In Aramaic, it wasn't father, it was Papa. Close and intimate and loving. And then he also said, like the raven, okay, once I have this light called the Christ consciousness, enlightenment, I don't want to keep it for myself, I want to spread it around. I want to let others know that they have this power also of the Father, of Papa. Therefore, he has a saying in the scripture that was part of the reading, the glory which you have given me. He's having a conversation with his Papa, okay? The glory which you have given me, I also have given to them, which means those who are following him, so that they may be one as we are one. So he had this light, and part of his mission was to spread this light, to awaken to everyone to this light that they are and the empowerment they are, that was breathed into them in the beginning. And then, of course, we have this another experiment that we've talked about today and celebrating tomorrow, the inauguration. We the people forming a more perfect union to establish justice. And here we are again, a people coming together trying to establish a more perfect union, trying to pass on this light. And we formed this government so that it could be, so the power would be spread out, so no one would steal the light for themselves, so that, but we could be spread out among the people. That was the intentions. And then, of course, Ernest Holmes reminded us that the ultimate goal is for all of us to get beyond this thing called struggle and strife and fear, and to live a life of harmony and peace. And then a man came around in the 1960s and spoke the word again. Let freedom ring. And he spoke a beloved community. So what am I saying all this about the inauguration and the power? I remind us as metaphysical teachers and students of metaphysics, it is our job to look for the light in every circumstance because it's there. And once we find the light, it is our job to spread the light among the people and to remind us that we are more than slugs. We are more than animals. Yes, we have all those characteristics, but we have been breathed into us the breath of life, and we became a living being of consciousness, of choice, and co-creation. What is the inaugural? Do you realize the inaugural, the first back in the Roman ancient days, they had inaugurations in which they ordained a leader or someone of high leadership. But the root of inauguration is inaugare, which means a gari, a priest, had to be present during the inauguration. Because the priest had to watch what was happening in nature, determine whether this is a good time or not to have this leader ordained, or whether this is really a good leader or not. So they had to have spiritual consciousness involved in this ceremony. Okay? Therefore, they watch the birds and everything, the flights and what's happening in nature, to determine whether this is a good time or a good person. Inauguration. Spiritual consciousness involved. And still today we have Holy Scriptures and Bibles they do pledge upon, right? But it's supposed to be from spiritual guidance and contemplation. And you realize the dream that we're talking about and that more perfect union, that dream of beloved community reminds us that dream means we have the co-creative abilities to create that which has never been before. That's the idea of human beings. In the beginning, there was so-called nothing. Then God created, and he wanted to create an image in his own likeness and image, and he breathed into this image the breath of life. Like little raven, breathe the light unto the world. I would like to invite you and I to remember that this is a wonderful day. This is a wonderful day because regardless of the so-called darkness that may come and the shadows that may show up, we know there is a light. No matter what's happening in the world, whether you agree what's going on in both politically or socially, and whether you are grieving about the slow evolution of some part of our humanity, you know the secret now. There is one power. And as Jesus said, you have given me the glory. What is the glory? The light. What is light? Energy. What is energy? Power. We've got the power. We've got the light. And all we have to continue to do is to spread that light, to spread that power, not keep it for ourselves, but to share it with all of humanity. So I'm hopeful today. I continue to celebrate this wonderful opportunity that we have, this wonderful experiment in democracy called the United States of America. As you've heard me say before, oh, we may have stormy days. It may seem like it's a cloudy day, but it's better than it was before. Because in the middle of these highfalutin discussions about these men sitting around talking about truth and philosophy and freedom, there were no women at the table. There were no poor white men at the table. There were no people of color at the table. And today, we're at the table. Thank you for your time and attention, and let us pray. Praise be to God. So I invite you to take a breath with me. Praise be to God. And this reminds us of that breath of life. And why is the deep breathing sometimes before prayer? Because we're reminded that every day our thoughts and our feelings and our actions are prayers. Just as every day we breathe, that nourishes our body, then we can choose to deeply breathe for a burst of energy, a burst of light, a burst of power. And now we choose to deeply pray for that burst of light, that burst of energy, that burst of power. And I'm so thankful that we can stand here today and celebrate that original inauguration, that story in which the gods knelt down and breathed into us that breath of life, that power of the infinite. And I'm so thankful that as humanity continues to evolve and to grow and to unfold, we keep passing this torch on. Oh yeah, sometimes we drop it. And sometimes there's a dark days, and sometimes there's stormy days. And yet, oh, there's someone who comes along that picks the light up and reminds us that as I have been given the glory, may they have the glory and be as us, because we are one. One power, one glory, one light, one human family. Therefore, I pray this prayer of blessing upon each one of us. Those who are in this audience today listening, those who are listening online, and those who will listen to this talk and the music and the service that we provide for times untold. Oh, you may be in the darkness of physical challenges. Oh, there's a light. There's a power. There's a blessing. Or you may be in the darkness of shadows of relationships. There is a light. There is a power. And there is a glory. And yes, we may be suffering financially with financial struggles. Oh, there is a source of all resources, and it is infinite. Infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite resources. And we may be feeling that we're contained in a box of darkness, and our soul cries for more freedom. Oh, there is a power and a presence that is part of our very DNA, our divine natural attribute. It is a light that cannot be squelched, for it is infinite and it is eternal. And we now speak this word and we call it forth. And may that raven, wherever it may appear as, whether as a Moses or a Jesus or a Buddha or a Gandhi or a king or a Mandela or the neighbor next door. Oh, I am so thankful for the raven. I'm so thankful for the power, for the light, and for the dream. And for this, I'm so thankful that it is so. And I now release it in knowing that we go forth from this moment with a deeper understanding, with a deeper knowingness that we are the ones we've been looking for. We are the raven. And for this, I'm so deeply thankful that it is so. Praise be to God. Please join me in affirming, and so it is. Amen.
We don't need to wait or stumble in the dark, for there is a dream. We, the people with our wisdoms, our visions, and our faiths, go forth with the idea of creating a more perfect union of humanity, kindness, and community. Let us, in the image of the raven, be the light, share the light, bring the light, for we have the power to be the answer that we've been looking for. Will you choose to be a candlelight, or will the stadium lights be blazing? Please help me anchor this by saying, and so it is.